the logic behind that is that our criminal justice system has these three major elements. One is the police, who do investigations and lay charges. The second are the Crown prosecutors, Crown attorneys. They're the ones who look at the charges and the evidence and decide whether to go forward with it, how they're going to go forward with it, and make all the arguments to say this person should be in jail or whatever. And then there's judges and juries who actually listen to all those arguments and make some decisions. And what we realized was that Crown prosecutors are kind of pivotal in this whole process. Because if we can get to the way that they're handling cases, which cases they're going forward with, and which cases they're saying, like, this isn't going to go anywhere, then police are not going to waste time and resources investigating and laying charges against people on grounds that they know are never going to go forward in a court. Right? It's just a waste of their time. So that begins to affect the way that police treat these kinds of cases. As well, judges and juries only listen to and make judgments on courses that are brought to them, cases that are brought to them. So if Crown attorneys, Crown counsel decides these cases simply are not worthwhile going forward with, then that never gets to the court case. It never gets to the judge who can make some stupid decision, or a jury that can make some stupid decision that would set us back here. So that kind of pivotal nature of Crown counsel seemed to us all, that was the place that we needed to put our efforts. So what we decided to do was to kind of follow the example of the United Kingdom, right? Different laws, different kinds of guidance and guidelines have to be done there, but they had seemed to have been able to produce a major impact in the way these cases were, or such cases were being prosecuted in the United Kingdom. And perhaps we could do the same thing here. So let me tell you a little bit about this campaign and the process and how it works. The first thing we did was to develop a call to the Attorney General, a demand, whatever. And if you go on the website, you can see it here. This is a very concise statement about why this is a problem and why you should be doing something about it. Right? Boils it down to the most basic things that the Attorney General needs to hear. And it does that for two reasons. One is to make it a simple message because, politicians need simple messages. But second, because we wanted to get important and influential people who make a whole range of opinions on this to say, look, this is something that we can agree on, that we need some sort of guidelines for what's going on. So that people who have actually spoken out and said, that these prosecutions are a good thing, right, could recognize that in some cases these things were going really off the rails. So the second stage then was to get a number of well-known, influential opinion makers, people in the AIDS community and elsewhere, to say, we agree with this. This is an issue for this province. We join this call, and to put their names behind it. That's important to catch the Attorney General's attention, but it's also important in terms of the next step, the one that we're launching tonight, which is to say, we need to open this up to everybody in this province to say this is an important issue. Right? Everybody should be signing this. And if people see most of the major AIDS service organizations have gone through their boards and discussed this and agreed to do this, and leading research scientists and leading doctors and major lawyers have all put their names to this, they can be confident that this isn't some wacky thing, right? This is something that is serious and substantial, and is something that we can join in on too. So what we hope to do then is to gather a kind of a critical mass of people who are across the province. So the Attorney General knows that this is not just AIDS service organizations, it's not just people who are doing counseling, it's not just scientists or doctors, but in fact there are lots and lots and lots of people across this province who are saying, you've got to do something about it. And that engages our particular kind of a democratic process. In order to do that part, we've developed materials, these kind of very beautiful postcards that look at some of the issues that you can pass around. They all have the website where you can go and look at things in more detail, and if you decide to do so, sign the petition. And then there's questions and answers, which we also used when we were dealing with the rich and famous people we wanted to get on here, because many of them had questions too, and so this was important to walk them through the reasons that we were doing it. this last piece is not just about building a critical mass in order to put this on the Attorney General's agenda. It's also about a piece of community education. Right? People in our community need to know this is an issue. They need to be able to think through. When they're asked about it, they need to be able to have responses that make sense and not find themselves tongue-tied. What I would see happening would be that once this is out, that everybody who decides to sign it goes to their address books on their Google and their Hotmail and whatever, and sends out a little personal message to their friends and their family, their acquaintances, their fuck buddies, whoever, right? And says, this is important for you to consider and sign up. And that brings more and more people to this site so that we actually begin to do this kind of education. That education, I think, is really important for the final stage in this process, which is the negotiation of what these guidelines are going to be. Right? Because as you heard from Edwin, the first time that the prosecutor's office in Britain came down with their guidelines, they were really bad. Right? We need a community that is mobilized, that is clear on this issue. We need long lists of people's names on emails that we can say, you know, we need a lot of people out where this meeting is going to be held, so that we can present community unity and coherent arguments in this process. And that's the only way we're going to assure that these guidelines are actually going to meet the needs that we develop them for, to begin to limit the kind of damage that's being done by this wave of criminalization, and to make sure that criminal law is only used in situations where there seems to be absolutely no other alternative, right? And we begin to approach, I guess, what the recommendations of the United Nations are. The criminal law should only be used in situations of real transmission and real harm. We may fall short of that, right, given the way the law is set up in Canada, but I think that those are some of the arguments that we need a community that's mobilized in order to meet. So that's our part. It's just before 8, so we actually have 35 minutes now for questions and answers and comments and disagreements and all of those kinds of things. And but I'd really encourage people, before you go, make sure you've got some of this this material. Go on, take a look at the website, go through the questions and answers, and become part of this process of mobilizing our community to make sure that this really difficult situation that we've all been facing for the past 5 years is finally brought under control. Thank you very much.